What would you do if the people meant to love you the most became the ones you feared the most? And what if the truth, the part you've been running from for years, finally showed up on your doorstep on Christmas Eve? My name is Mia Rowan, I'm 27, and I'm a freelance documentary editor. And before this night is over, you're going to understand why Christmas Eve has never felt like a holiday to me, only a countdown. But hold on, before we get into the real stuff, I want to know, what are you doing at this exact moment while hearing my voice? I love seeing your answers down below in the comments. Anyway, here's how that Christmas Eve began. The snow was falling sideways, those sharp, glittery flakes that sting when they hit your cheeks, and I was standing in the middle of my tiny Denver apartment, staring at a voicemail from my mom I hadn't heard yet. 8 seconds long. Time-stamped 6:02 p.m. Subject line, family emergency. Come home. She never said please. Never said I miss you. So seeing the words family and emergency in the same sentence made my stomach tighten the same way it used to when I'd hear her heels clicking down the hallway when I was a kid. My hand hovered over the play button. I didn't press it. Not yet. Instead, I walked to the window, watching the lights from the city glow through the snow like warm honey. It was Christmas Eve. Most people were wrapping gifts, baking cookies, huddling by fireplaces. Me. I was pacing a 400-square-foot apartment, wondering if tonight was finally the night the Rowan family collapsed under the weight of its own lies. I should explain. To everyone in Ridgehaven, our postcard-perfect Minnesota town, my family looked like the Rockwell painting of Christmas. Dad stringing lights across every inch of our house. My mom decorating garland like she was auditioning for a holiday catalog. My younger sister, Claire, practicing choir solos while cookies burned in the oven because she always forgot she was baking. Then there was me, quiet, observant, the girl who carried a video camera everywhere because filming life felt safer than living it. Mom used to introduce me as the artistic one who'll grow out of it. She introduced Claire as our miracle. She never explained what I was. I learned early that love inside our house depended on how I could make my mother look. How useful, how impressive, how obedient. If I didn't fit the picture she wanted to frame, she treated me like the crooked nail in her perfect wall. I left at 19 and never moved back. 6 Christmases passed without me stepping into that house again. But tonight, something felt different. My phone buzzed again. This time, a text from my dad, a man who avoided conflict like it was a wild animal. Please come home. It's your mother. She needs you. That she needs you part? That was new. My mother never admitted needing anyone. I sat on the edge of my bed, pulling a blanket over my shoulders, the soft hum of my radiator filling the room like white noise. The voicemail stared at me again, waiting. I finally hit play. Her voice crackled through the speaker. Sharp, rushed, thinner than I remembered. Mia, something happened. I can't explain it over the phone. Come home tonight, please. Before midnight. Midnight. She said it with a tremor. My mother doesn't tremble. The message ended, leaving a silence that felt heavy enough to bend the walls. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Block the number again. Pour a mug of cocoa and pretend none of it was happening. But something in her voice, something I'd never heard in 27 years, was lodged behind my ribs. Fear. Real fear. And against every promise I'd ever made to myself, I grabbed my coat. As I stepped into the hallway, keys in hand, I didn't realize this would be the last quiet moment I'd get for a very long time. Because the truth waiting for me in Ridgehaven was darker, older, and far more dangerous than any family secret should ever be. The highway out of Denver was nearly empty. Just me, a couple long-haul truckers, and the kind of snow that makes the world feel muffled, like someone threw a blanket over reality. My breath fogged the windshield every time I exhaled too hard. I wasn't even an hour into the drive when the doubt hit me like a punch to the chest. Why was I doing this? Why was I letting one 8-second voicemail drag me 900 miles back into a past I'd spent years clawing my way out of? But every time I reached to turn around, my mother's voice echoed again in my head. Thin, shaky, unfamiliar. Come home tonight. Please. Before midnight. My mom never used that word. Please. It felt radioactive coming from her mouth. I cranked the heat, rubbed my hands together, and muttered to myself like some unhinged road trip narrator. Girl, you're either making the biggest mistake of your life or the most overdue decision you've ever made. The snow thickened, swirling so fast the headlights couldn't cut through it. I switched on a podcast for background noise, some true crime Christmas special, which in hindsight was a terrible choice. The narrator's calm voice describing missing people only made the night feel creepier. Around midnight, somewhere outside Omaha, I pulled into a gas station, one of those sketchy ones with flickering lights and a sign that said hot dogs 2 for $1, which should honestly be a crime in itself. I grabbed coffee that tasted like burnt battery acid and got back on the road. And that's when my sister called. The name Claire lit up my screen, and my grip on the steering wheel tightened. We hadn't spoken in, for years? Maybe 5. She'd chosen Mom's side without hesitation. The miracle child always did. I let it ring twice before answering. Hey, I said, voice cautious. Mia. She sounded out of breath. You're actually coming? Yeah. I'm on I-80 already. Okay, good, she whispered, like she wasn't sure if she wanted me there or not. Just drive safe, okay? That wasn't what she wanted to say. I could hear it in the hitch of her voice. What's going on, Claire? Silence. Then, barely audible. Mia, it's bad. Just get here before midnight. I can't say more. My stomach dropped. Why not? Because she's listening. I sat up straighter. Who? The line crackled. Snow beat against the windshield like tiny fists. Mia, just hurry, she said. Please. And the call died. I stared at my phone like it had personally betrayed me. Listening. Who's listening? Mom. Dad. Someone else? The temperature inside the car suddenly felt colder. I turned the heat up even higher, but it didn't help. Something icy had settled deep inside my chest. I drove faster. Hours passed. State lines blurred. Christmas lights glowed from tiny towns I sped through at 2 a.m., each one looking warm and safe and nothing like the place I was heading. By the time I crossed into Minnesota, dawn was bleeding into the sky, soft blues and pinks stretching across endless fields. My eyes burned from lack of sleep. My hands were stiff from gripping the wheel too tight. Then my hometown welcome sign appeared through the frost. Ridgehaven, where Christmas lives year-round. I almost laughed. If they only knew. The closer I got to my parents' house, the more my heartbeat shifted from nervous to something darker. Like dread had been sitting in the back seat the entire drive and was now leaning forward, whispering in my ear. Every childhood landmark I passed, the bakery where I once hid from my mom after a fight, the ice rink where Claire won her first medal, the church where our Christmas photos always looked perfect, felt like walking through a museum exhibit of a life I didn't recognize anymore. Finally, I turned onto our old street. The Rowan house was lit up like it was competing in some national Christmas contest. Every gutter lined with twinkling lights. Every tree wrapped in glowing spirals. Garland along the porch rail. A giant inflatable snowman waving with a creepy tilt, like he knew something I didn't. But the strangest part? Every light inside the house was on. All of them. At 7 a.m. My parents hated wasting electricity. I parked across the street, engine idling, watching my own breath fog the air. A shadow moved in the front window, slow and deliberate. Not Mom. Not Dad. Too tall. Too still. A cold jolt ran down my spine. Something wasn't right. I took a deep breath, grabbed my bag, and stepped out into the biting cold. The snow crunched beneath my boots like breaking glass. My phone buzzed. A new text. From an unknown number. Too late. My heart stopped mid-beat. Too late for what? Who sent it? And why were they watching me? As I lifted my eyes toward the house again, the front door slowly began to open. The front door creaked open like it had been holding its breath all night. And for a second, just a second, I thought about getting back in my car, hitting the gas, and yeeting myself straight back to Colorado. But the text, too late, was still glowing on my screen, and my sister's voice still echoed in my head. She's listening. Snowflakes clung to my hair as I stepped onto the walkway. Every Christmas light around me hummed faintly, too bright, too alive. The inflatable snowman bobbed in the wind like a warning. Okay, Mia, I whispered. You got this. You survived growing up in this house. You can survive walking into it. Famous last words. When I reached the porch, the door finally opened wide enough to reveal who was standing there. My dad. But not the version of him I remembered. The soft-spoken accountant who smelled like cedar and worked too much and avoided conflict like it was a wild animal. This version looked hollow. His skin was pale, eyes rimmed red like he hadn't slept in days. His shirt was wrinkled, and his right hand twitched like it was trying to move on its own. Mia, he breathed, voice cracking. Thank God. He pulled me inside before I could even answer, shutting the door quietly, like the cold outside might hear him. The moment the door clicked, I realized something was wrong with the house. It was too warm, too quiet, too still. Christmas Eve in our house used to sound like chaos. Pots clanging, oven timers dinging, my mom yelling about crumbs on the counter, Claire singing off-key at the top of her lungs. Tonight, you could have heard a pin drop from 2 rooms away. Where's Mom? I asked carefully. Dad glanced toward the stairs. Upstairs. In her room. She hasn't come out since last night. My chest tightened. And Claire. In the kitchen. She's been waiting for you. I took a step, but Dad grabbed my arm. Harder than he meant to, I think. Mia, he whispered, eyes darting toward the ceiling. Don't make any sudden noises. She doesn't like that. Who doesn't? I whispered back. He swallowed. Didn't answer. I gently pulled my arm free and made my way toward the kitchen. My boots left small puddles on the hardwood floor, and each one felt like an explosion in the silence. When I stepped into the kitchen, I found Claire sitting at the table, hands wrapped around a mug of untouched cocoa. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a messy braid, eyes puffy, like she'd been crying for days. When she looked up at me, something inside me cracked. Mia, she breathed out. Then louder, oh my God, Mia. She rushed toward me, wrapping her arms around my shoulders and burying her face into my coat. She was shaking. Not just crying. Shaking. What's going on? I whispered into her hair. What happened? She pulled back, wiping her face with the sleeve of her sweater. You came. I didn't think you would. Yeah, well, your cryptic horror movie phone call kinda did the trick. She tried to laugh. Failed. Then she leaned in and whispered. She's not acting like herself. Mom, I asked. No. Her voice dropped even lower. I mean, she's really not acting like herself. Something thumped upstairs. A slow, dragging kind of thump. Like someone sliding furniture, or moving on uneven legs. Dad froze in the hallway. Claire's face drained of color, and suddenly every hair on my arms stood on end. Okay, what was that? I asked, pulse picking up speed. Neither of them answered. The thumping moved again, this time directly above us. Then my phone buzzed. Another text. Same unknown number. Don't go upstairs. I stared at the screen. Claire, is this you? I whispered. She shook her head rapidly. No. Who's texting you? Before I could answer, footsteps creaked at the top of the stairs. Slow. Deliberate. Wrong. Then a voice, hers, floated down. Aya. It was sing-song, high-pitched, too sweet, like a child imitating a mother. My blood iced over. My dad backed away from the staircase like a scared animal. Claire grabbed my wrist so tight her nails dug into my skin. Mia, listen, she whispered urgently. Whatever you do. The footsteps stopped. The house held its breath. Then, don't look at her face. Claire's warning, don't look at her face, was still ringing in my ears when another creak rolled across the ceiling, slow and heavy, as if something had decided to crawl instead of walk. My heartbeat was doing backflips in my throat. Okay, I whispered. Someone want to explain what the hell is going on? Neither of them spoke. Dad pressed himself against the entryway wall like the stairs might lunge at him. Claire kept her fingers locked around my wrist, squeezing tight enough to cut off circulation. Then Mom's voice floated down again, this time distorted, like it was stretched too thin. Mia, sweetheart, come say hi. Nope. This was officially above my emotional pay grade. I took a shaky breath. What happened to her? Dad finally whispered back. She hasn't slept. She hasn't eaten. She keeps talking to someone when nobody's there. Talking to who? He shook his head helplessly. The air in the house felt wrong. Heavy. Thick. Like it was pushing back with every breath I took. Another dragging step echoed, this time right at the top of the stairs. Claire's grip tightened. She's been doing this since last night. Doing what? I whispered. Walking around at night. Stopping at our doors. Whispering things. Smiling the whole time, like she's trying it on for the first time. A chill shot up my spine. Why didn't you call me sooner? Claire swallowed. Because she kept taking our phones. My stomach dropped. Taking them. She's so quiet now, Claire whispered. You barely hear her until she's right behind you. Last night, I went to check on Dad and... A soft knock interrupted her. Not loud. Not aggressive. Just a polite tap, tap, tap on the upstairs banister. Like she was knocking on the air. My muscles tensed. Dad, I whispered. Is she sick? Did she fall? Hit her head? You need to tell me something. He looked at me with hollow, terrified eyes. It's not medical, Mia. He shook his head slowly. It's something else. Before I could ask what he meant, Claire tugged me toward the laundry room. We have to show her, she whispered to Dad. Dad hesitated, really hesitated, then nodded like a man signing a contract he didn't want to read. Claire pulled me inside the laundry room and shut the door gently. Dad slipped in behind us. The moment the door closed, all sound from the hallway dulled, like we'd stepped into a soundproof box. Okay, Claire whispered. Promise you won't freak out? Girl, that is a terrible way to start a conversation, I snapped softly. She reached behind the dryer, pulling out an old, dented metal tin, one our mom used to keep sewing needles in. My stomach flipped just seeing it. When Claire opened it, my breath caught. Inside were dozens of folded slips of paper. Some old and yellowed. Some fresh. All torn from notebooks I remembered using in middle school. What is this? I whispered. Claire handed me the top slip. I unfolded it and felt the room tilt. It was my handwriting. From years ago. A journal entry. Mom said today that she wishes they'd stopped after Claire. I wish she'd stop looking at me like I ruined her whole life. My chest tightened until it hurt. Dad spoke, voice barely audible. She found them yesterday. Every journal you ever kept. Ones we didn't even know she saved. She was reading them out loud, Claire added, voice shaking. For hours. Smiling. Memorizing them. My mouth went dry. Why? Why would she do that? Claire's lips trembled. Because, she said she needed to remember the version of you she could fix. My blood ran cold. Fix. Fix me. Before I could react, a soft humming started outside the laundry room. High-pitched. Off-key. Familiar in the worst way. Mom was humming Silent Night. Only she emphasized the wrong notes, stretching the melody until it sounded warped. Claire's eyes widened. Dad clenched his fists. The humming grew louder. Closer. Right outside the door. My entire body went rigid. A shadow shifted under the gap of the door, bare feet moving back and forth slowly, like she was rocking. Then her voice slid through the crack like cold air. Girls, why are we hiding? Claire covered her mouth to stifle a sob. Dad mouthed silently. Don't move. My heart hammered so loud I was afraid she'd hear it. The shadow stilled. Then, softly, like she was savoring each syllable. Mia, I read all your secrets. The humming stopped. The air went dead silent. And just as I felt my pulse spike into panic, a new sound cut through the room. My phone buzzed. One new text. Same unknown number. You're not alone in that room. The text, you're not alone in that room, hit me like a bucket of ice water. My brain short-circuited. Not alone. Then who? I whipped my head toward the back of the laundry room. It was small, just a washer, dryer, shelves, and a couple storage bins. Nowhere for anyone to hide. Unless I spotted it. The crawlspace door behind the detergent shelf. A tiny square panel I hadn't noticed earlier. It was cracked open, just half an inch, but enough. I felt every hair on my arms stand up like static. Claire saw where I was looking and immediately shook her head, mouthing no. Don't. Dad's face drained of color. Nobody's in there, he whispered, too quickly to be believable. Before I could respond, the shadow beneath the laundry room door shifted. Mom's feet turning, the boards creaking under her weight as she swayed slowly back and forth. She whispered through the crack again, her voice bright and cheerful in the most chilling way. Are my girls having a secret meeting? Claire squeezed her eyes shut. She knows, she mouthed to me. She always knows. My pulse hammered in my ears. The crawlspace door made the faintest creak. Something inside moved. A whisper of shifting dust. A soft scrape. Fabric brushing wood. Nope. 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 What is that? I whispered. Dad swallowed hard. Voice barely audible. We don't know. She keeps going in there. What do you mean going in there? I hissed. She crawls. His voice broke. At night. We hear her. She talks to someone. Or something. We don't know who. A chill shot through my spine so fast I had to grip the dryer to stay upright. The crawlspace creaked again. Claire clutched my arm. Mia, don't move. Whatever you do, don't look in there. My voice came out small, terrified, nothing like myself. Is this what she's been doing? Crawling around the house? Reading my journals? Talking to walls? Dad wiped his face with a shaking hand. She keeps saying the same thing. Over and over. What? I whispered. He hesitated. Then, she says she's not alone anymore. That her friend tells her things. About you. About your childhood. About what you wrote. My stomach dropped so fast it felt like falling. She said the friend knows every version of you, Claire added, voice cracking. That the friend has been waiting for you to come home. The crawl space clicked. Just once. Soft. Like a nail tapping wood. Mom's humming outside the door stopped abruptly. Silence pressed against my ears. Then, softly, sweetly, too close. Mia, honey, why did you stop writing about me? My breath froze mid-inhale. I hadn't written about her in years. I hadn't even spoken to her in 6 Christmases. How did she? Before I could finish the thought, the doorknob twitched. Just once. Not a full turn. More like a test. A question. Claire slapped her hand over her mouth, eyes wide with panic. Dad braced himself against the cabinets like he expected the door to explode inward. Mia, Mom's voice purred. Did your last entry hurt too much to write down? My throat closed. Because I remembered exactly what my last entry said. The one I wrote at 19. The one I burned in a metal bowl. The one nobody should have seen. I'm not scared of leaving home anymore. I'm scared of what happens if I stay. The doorknob twitched again. Harder. Mia, open the door, she sang. I made breakfast for my girls. Dad whispered urgently. Do not open that door. She's not right. The crawl space thumped behind me. Once. Loud. Claire yanked me backward, away from it. Oh God, she whispered. Dad, it's waking up. I felt my blood turn to ice. I whispered. What do you mean it? Neither of them answered. Then a new sound, a low groan, like old wood shifting, rose from inside the crawlspace. Something dragged along the floor inside. Slow, deliberate, crawling toward the opening. My breath hitched. A shadow appeared behind the crack, small at first, then spreading wider, like fingers stretching. The doorknob to the hallway twisted again, this time a full turn. Mom giggled. Actually giggled. The crawlspace panel rattled. And my phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. Another message. It knows your name. The text. It knows your name. Nearly slipped out of my hands. Inside the crawlspace, something shifted again. A dragging noise, heavier this time, like elbows or knees scraping across old wood. Dust floated out through the tiny crack, drifting toward my shoes in slow, ghostly spirals. Dad pressed a trembling finger to his lips. Claire grabbed my sleeve so hard she stretched the fabric. Outside the laundry room door, Mom giggled again. Soft, breathy, childlike. The kind of giggle you hear in horror movies right before someone makes a very bad decision. Mia, she cooed. You always hid in this room when you were little. Do you remember? I do. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My throat was locked like someone had turned a key inside it. She hummed. Let me in, sweetheart. I've been waiting. The doorknob shook violently. Claire flinched and Dad nearly fell backward. Inside the crawlspace, another thud hit the wall. Louder. Closer. Dad, I whispered. What is that thing? He shut his eyes tightly. We don't know, she said. She said it followed her out. Out of what? I snapped. He swallowed hard. Her room. What room? Claire looked at me with wet, terrified eyes. Mia, the attic. My blood ran cold. The attic, the one Mom used to lock herself in when she needed her space. The one she always said was off limits. The one with the old cedar door and the rusty lock she claimed was too dangerous for us to open. Something slammed inside the crawlspace again, this time shaking dust loose from the ceiling. Why would she go up there? I whispered. Dad's voice broke. She said she needed to listen. To who? I pressed. He didn't answer. Outside the laundry room door, Mom's footsteps stopped. Everything fell silent. Then, 3 soft knocks. Tap, tap, tap. Polite, curious, wrong. Mia. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I can hear your heartbeat. My stomach flipped. Claire covered her ears. Dad mouthed, don't engage. Do not respond. Then, from inside the crawl space, a breath. Not human. Not steady. A wet, rattling inhale like lungs that didn't know how to breathe. I stumbled back, knocking into a basket of towels. The noise sounded deafening in the tight room. Mom's voice sharpened instantly. There you are. She twisted the doorknob again, wild this time, frantic, like she was trying to break it off. Claire shook her head, pleading silently for me to stay still. Dad grabbed a detergent jug like it was a weapon. The crawlspace panel shuddered. Something inside began pushing outward. Slowly, methodically, testing the strength of the frame. My pulse thudded in my ears. Mia, Mom sang. Open the door so I can show you what I found. Nope. Hard pass. I was about to file a personal restraining order against my entire gene pool. But then, without warning, the humming stopped. Mom's shadow disappeared from under the door. Dad froze. Claire froze. Even the thing in the crawlspace stopped moving. Silence swallowed the room whole. Then, a creak from the hallway. A soft thud, like feet shifting position. Something wasn't right. Dad whispered. She's moving away from the door. Good, Claire whispered fiercely. Let her move away. But Dad's face twisted into confusion. No, she's not walking upstairs. Another thud. He pressed his ear to the door. She's crawling. My heart dropped into my stomach. Crawling where? I whispered. His voice was barely a breath. Across the ceiling. Claire pulled me close, her whole body trembling. She started doing that around 4 this morning. I thought I was dreaming. A scraping noise moved above our heads, slow, uneven, like fingernails dragging across wood. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. But my legs felt welded to the floor. The scraping moved down the hallway ceiling. Closer. Closer. Finally stopping right above the laundry room door. Then, in a voice that chilled my blood, Mia! I can hear you breathing. My hand flew over my mouth. Dad backed away from the door like it was about to burst open. Inside the crawlspace, something let out a low, guttural exhale, almost answering her. Then my phone lit up again. Another text from the same unknown number. Whatever's in the attic, she didn't bring it out alone. The text on my phone glowed like a warning flare. Whatever's in the attic, she didn't bring it out alone. My pulse stuttered. Claire squeezed my arm so tight I felt her shaking through her nails. Above us, Mom's crawling stopped, right over the laundry room door. Silence thickened until the house felt like it was holding its breath again. Dad swallowed hard. We have to get out of this room. No, Claire whispered. If we open the door, she'll be right there. She's on the ceiling, Claire, he hissed. If she drops down on us. Another crawl across the ceiling cut him off. Slow. Deliberate. Too many joints bending at the wrong angles. My stomach flipped. Dad, what happened before I got here? What started this? He opened his mouth, closed it, then exhaled like a man ripping the truth out of his ribs. She found a box in the attic. What kind of box? I whispered. A metal one, he said. Locked. Old. Older than the house. Claire added, she said it had your name on it. My heart dropped. What? Why would something in the attic have my name? She thought you'd hidden it, Dad whispered. She said it called to her. Great. Fantastic. My childhood home was basically an episode of Ghost Hunters now. Inside the crawl space, something scraped the floor again. Faster now, like it was waking up fully. Dad's voice cracked. When your mother opened the box, something changed. She came downstairs smiling too wide, talking to herself, laughing at walls. Then she started climbing. And the thing in the crawl space? I whispered. Claire's eyes filled with tears. We don't think Mom opened that box alone. A deep creak echoed from the ceiling, like weight shifting toward the hallway. A tiny, fragile second of quiet settled. Dad grabbed the laundry room doorknob. Dad, no. We have to move now, he said. Whatever's behind us is getting ready to come out. My skin crawled. The crawlspace panel bowed outward like something inside was pushing harder. Mia, Claire whispered. Don't look back. Great advice. Didn't plan to. Dad cracked the door open. The hallway light flickered. I peeked out over his shoulder. And there, at the far end of the hall, Mom stood upside down on the ceiling. Her hair dangled toward the floor. Her neck was twisted at an angle no human body should survive. Her mouth was stretched into a smile that looked like someone had drawn it on with a knife. The moment she saw me, her jaw snapped wider. My ear. Dad grabbed us and shoved us into the hallway. Go. Mom skittered toward us across the ceiling. Fast, hands and feet tapping like nails on wood. We bolted. The house blurred past. Living room, dining room, the cluttered entryway. Mom's limbs slapped the ceiling above us, keeping pace like she had 1,000 legs. Claire screamed. Dad fumbled with the front lock. I shoved my weight into the door with everything I had. It burst open. Cold air sliced across my face. We sprinted into the snow. Dad yanked Claire down the porch steps. I grabbed his arm and dragged him toward my car. Behind us, Mom shrieked, a sound I didn't think humans could make. The porch light flickered. And something else, something darker, lower, not human, growled from inside the house. Dad yelled, Don't look back, just run. We hit the car, slipping on ice. I jammed the keys into the ignition. The engine sputtered, coughed, and finally roared to life. Mom hit the front window from inside with a sickening thud. The glass spiderwebbed. Claire sobbed. Go, 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 go. I floored it. The car fishtailed, then shot down the snowy street. Christmas lights blurred past like neon ghosts. Only when we turned the corner did anyone breathe. Dad was shaking uncontrollably. Claire was sobbing. My hands were welded to the wheel. What? I choked out. What was that thing with her? Dad wiped his face. Something that's been in this family longer than she ever admitted. I snapped my eyes toward him. Dad, what are you talking about? He swallowed. Your mother wasn't the first one it chose. That's why the box had your name. The blood drained from my face. What do you mean chose? He met my eyes in the rearview mirror, broken and terrified. It wanted you next. A moment of crushing silence filled the car. Then my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out with trembling fingers. One more text. Same unknown number. It still does.